I got a question the other day about replacing a vacuum tube rectifier with a solid state rectifier and what all would be involved. Well, I had never done this before, so I thought this would be a good time to do it because I've got a radio that has a bad rectifier. This 5Z3 sparks and pops, which is not good. So I got out the wiring diagrams of some typical rectifiers. A 5V4, it's got a cathode. A 5Y3, no cathode, just filament. Likewise the 5Z3 that I'm going to replace with a solid state rectifier, or a couple of rectifiers. This information I got from tube manuals. I happen to use a GE tube manual, and if you look on the About on my channel, you'll find a link to downloads for tube manuals. Now this information is telling us that all the way over to the left, the 5V4, that we got a 25 volt voltage drop between the cathode and the plate at 175 milliamps DC. That also goes for the other plate. Now in the 5Y3, the voltage drop is 60 volts at 125 milliamps. And for the 5Z3, it's 58 volts at 225 milliamps. Now if you plug all that information into an Ohm's law calculator, you'll come up with this ohms, or these ohms. 143 ohms for the 5V4, 480 for the 5Y3, and 258 for the 5Z3. So that should be the ohms between the cathode, if you have one, or the filaments. This is the orientation of the diodes. Now I'm going to be using 2 diodes each. And my 5Z3 is a 4-pin. And here I started soldering the resistors. That's the 2 on the bottom. And you can see the 2 connections on the larger pin. That's pin 1. In the diagram it looks like it's pin 4, so what I did was I went to the radio to see where the positive was connected to the rectifier, and that's the pin that I soldered my diodes on. I have completed the build and installed the solid state device in the radio, and this is the diagram of that device. I've got 2 300 ohm resistors and 2 diodes. Now the diodes are peak inverse voltage of 1000 volts. The forward current is 1.5 amps. And the peak surge current is 50 amps. Now it's time for some testing. Okay, now I'm turning up the voltage. I've got a whisper fan on the transformer. That's what that noise is. and we don't hear anything, or not much. You can barely hear a station. Well, that is some news, but certainly not what I was hoping for. As we heard, the radio does play, but barely. So the first thing I did was to check the voltage on the plate of the output tube, and it reads 263, sometimes up to 270 volts, which is a little high, but that's plenty of voltage. So the next thing I did, I thought, let me check the input to that tube, the control grid, and check the output at the plate with a signal tracer. I've got the signal tracer on audio, and now I'm going to touch the grid.
Sustained staggering losses of information. And a lot more on this weekend roundup. Afghanistan, Syria.
Plenty of audio. This is the plate. No audio.
The good news is today our businesses have created nearly 7 million new jobs over the past 38 months. 500,000 of those jobs are in manufacturing. We're producing more of our own energy. We're consuming less energy.
I think I'll try a new tube. I've installed the new audio tube. I think the rectifier may have damaged the original one. There's the whisper fan again. Wow, what a difference.
This is the CBS News Weekend Roundup. Once again, here's correspondent Dan Ravine.
Now you'll hear Republicans not in government at this time commenting on what's going on these days. Let's start with Ann Romney, who wanted to be our first lady, but her husband Mitt lost.
Well, with the new tube in the radio, it sure does sound a lot better, but the voltage is still high. So I took the solid state device I made and disconnected the cathode in from pin 1, and I decided I'm going to add some resistance in there to knock down the voltage. And I'm using alligator clips, and the combination that I came up with was a 500 ohm 10 watt resistor across a 1000 ohm 14 watt resistor, and that got the voltage just about where I wanted it. Then I put all those resistors into the tube socket, cut off the leads, and then put it into the radio, and this is what I came up with. We've got added to the circuit those two resistors in parallel going from the cathodes of the two diodes to pin 1 of the tube socket.
And 5 more brilliant Broadway smash hits.
This is Rachel Gregg, Senior Director of Marketing at D.
Different kind. We're talking NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race cars. On to the banking of turns 1 and 2. Back 24 degrees. Up.
240 volts is what I want, and it looks like we're right on it.
is proud to serve Virginia and the Carolinas as your complete office solutions provider.
Times than not, a 1 or a 2 car spin. It's all over again when you
call us and we'll be happy to come by your office, assess your needs, and recommend the right digital office solutions for you.
I have now tested the radio for a couple of hours and everything is normal. So we started with this design and it was pretty good, but I had to tweak it a little bit by adding a couple of resistors in parallel from the cathode of the diodes to pin 1, and that set the voltage exactly where I needed it. Thanks for watching.